3, 2, 1, go. Careful. What are you doing? Are you okay?
Hello and welcome to Power Drifting, the Rally Game podcast. This is Bonus Stage, a shorter episode type where I, Tom, or one of your other co-hosts, shoots the breeze about a rally title that they have played recently, or maybe one that the other hosts don't really know a great deal about. This time, join me as we step back in time to the year of our Lord, 2005, the year during which YouTube was launched, George W. Bush was sworn in for his second term as US president, and Peter Jackson returned to the top of the movie charts with his reboot of King Kong. It was also the year that Sony's PlayStation Portable, aka the PSP, was released in the US and Europe, and fittingly, the year that this episode's featured game was released in PAL territories. Let's buckle up and hit the dirt in WRC FIA World Rally Championship for the PSP. So yes, as stated, WRC hit the PSP in late 2005 in PAL territories and then in early 2006 in the US and Japan. And I suppose it could be considered a launch window title for the European launch of the system, as it was released barely a month after the hardware hit shop shelves in this part of the world. Now, as you probably know, WRC had been a bit of a mainstay on Sony's home system of the era, the PlayStation 2, since 2001. With Evolution Studios releasing no less than 5 separate WRC titles on the PS2. And they are, I almost said in no particular order, but in order, they are WRC, WRC2 Extreme, or rather WRC2 Extreme, WRC3, WRC4, and WRC5 Rally Evolved. No, it's not called that, it's just called WRC Rally Evolved. Now, what's interesting here is that WRC Rally Evolved was released around the same time as WRC for the PSP, so you could view the PSP game as a sort of handheld tie-in or accompaniment to the home console version. However, there are some stark differences between the two titles, even though they were both PlayStation exclusives and released around the same time. Now, just as an aside, we do intend to cover all of the previously mentioned Evolution Studios WRC titles at some point in the near future on this very podcast. But, just as a little aside, the PSP version wasn't actually developed by Evolution. It was actually developed by Traveller's Tales, which is a studio you'll no doubt be familiar with if you've ever owned a Sega Saturn. That's because Traveller's Tales was the developer of Sonic 3D Blast and Sonic R. Sonic R is an interesting title because it's the one that allows you to race as Sonic in a sort of a 3D environment and is almost like a sort of precursor to Sonic Adventure, but not really. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked as per normal. So without getting too bogged down in the history of the two different developers of these 2005 WRC titles, it's probably worth knowing that Evolution went on to create the MotorStorm franchise and then went out with an eventual bang with the awesome Drive Club, a game which it kind of entered the world as a bit of a damp squib, but then went out on a high. And we're probably never going to get a PS5 update for Drive Club, which is quite sad. Anyway, Traveller's Tales only released 2 further PSP games after WRC, and they're both Lego tie-ins, Lego Indiana Jones and Lego Batman, before they eventually became, Lego Game Central, all the way up to the present day.
Junction. Easy right, left, into hard right. Caution.
So then, to recap, WRC was released in late 2005 on the PSP, developed by Traveller's Tales and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. I did play the game back around release. It was one of the first games I got for the PSP, and I distinctly remember being really impressed with the visuals on the little handheld. Obviously, back then, the PSP was the latest new hardware release, and games looked so impressive compared to stuff we'd been used to on handhelds up to that point. But I'll come back to touch on the aesthetics in a little while. First up then, the game does feature an official WRC license, but it's a rather cut down version of the WRC as you might imagine. Initially, there are only 6 vehicles to choose from, and they are the Subaru Impreza WRC 2005, the Citroen Zara WRC, Ford Focus RS WRC, Skoda Fabia WRC, Peugeot 307 WRC, and the Mitsubishi Lancer WRC 05. Now, there is also an option for downloadable extras, but naturally, as you would imagine, these downloadable extras are now lost to the mists of time. Well, for me at least. But as far as I can tell, they were simply extreme, inverted commas, versions of the base 6 models with improved stats and alternative liveries, as far as I can tell. And thanks go to the Internet Game Cars database for that information.
Very long, easy right. Press and easy right.
There are also real-world drivers. Each team has 2 or 3 drivers from the 2005 championship, so you'll find names such as Petter Solberg, Sebastian Loeb, Marcus Gronholm, etc. hidden in the menus once you've selected your chosen vehicle. I don't think it affects how the vehicles handle, but it's nice to see some famous names, mugshots, and career statistics added in. In terms of locations, then, there are 16 rallies from the WRC 2005 season, with pretty much every type of environment covered. The countries included are Italy, Finland, Sweden, Spain, Mexico, New Zealand, Greece, Great Britain, Turkey, Argentina, Cyprus, France, Japan, Germany, Monte Carlo, and last but not least, Australia. And each location features 4 special stages, which appear to be named after actual WRC stages from 2005. The layouts do also appear to be fairly accurate reproductions of the actual stages they're based on. And yes, I looked at rallymaps.com, the Rally Stages database, while squinting at my PSP screen and cross-referencing the layouts. You're welcome. But yeah, as I said, only 4 special stages per location. But I guess that's to be expected when the original game came on a UMD. Just on that topic, I'm actually playing the game for the purposes of this episode on a PSP Go, in case you wondered, which you probably didn't. But anyway, moving swiftly on.
Long right, onto bridge and through long chicane.
In terms of gameplay modes, you have a quick rally, which randomizes the stage and the vehicle and just lets you jump into a single stage. Time trial lets you pick any vehicle and any unlocked stage to try and beat the ghost time. Single rally allows you to play through the stages you've already unlocked in any particular country, with points awarded depending on your final placing. And then the main mode is Championship, which is like the main career mode, if you like, where you choose a difficulty setting, and they are novice, professional, expert, and extreme. Sorry, extreme! And then and you race in each country in order. The thing about this mode is that, unlike traditional rally titles that you might be familiar with, the Championship plays more like an arcade racer. And what I mean by that is on each stage, you have to place higher than a certain position to progress. So in novice, you have to finish 5th or higher. Professional, you have to finish 4th or higher, etc., 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 in order to like move on to the next stage. And what makes this even weirder is that you can actually see the ghosts of the other drivers on the track. So you're essentially racing against the ghosts to move up the rankings. It's actually quite odd, and you're essentially racing against these ghosts rather than the clock to improve your position. And I'm not really sure why Traveller's Tales did that when a simple timer would have been just as good. It would have sufficed. You also only get to unlock the 3rd and 4th special stages of each country by playing through this championship in the expert and extreme difficulties, which also bring with them faster opponents.
To junction left. Easy left, and caution, hairpin right.
Now, while there is a damage model, which actually looks really good, and as does the entire game, to be honest, there aren't any service areas that I've seen anyway. So no matter how badly damaged your vehicle gets, and it will, due to the rather loose handling, you will always start the next stage with a fully restored vehicle. Personally, I think this is fine, mainly because this is a handheld spin-off for all intents and purposes. And I suppose the main brief was to make a rally game that was more arcade than simulation. It's a handheld after all. This is apparent in no other place than the vehicle handling, which I've already described as loose, quote unquote, but could also be described as moderately infuriating. I mean, with practice, it is possible to get good, as the kids from 2010 may say, but there's a bit of a learning curve with the handling. And sadly, WRC for PSP is one of those games where the vehicles seem to be kind of rotating from a central point, and skidding off the track is way, way, way too easy. Further to this, the vehicles lack a real sense of weight. So clipping like trackside bumps can send your car somersaulting through the air like it's auditioning for a circus. I mean, it's not unplayable. It's far from it. So don't get the wrong impression. But it just feels very far removed from what you might expect if you've played any of the PS2 WRC games from Evolution Studios.
Long hard left, caution outside. Hard right, tightens, caution.
So the handling's not amazing, but one area where PSP WRC really shines is the visuals. The game looks fantastic for its time. I mean, it looks fantastic now, to be honest, for a handheld. When you compare it to rally games on the Nintendo DS, WRC is frankly light years ahead. I mean, the courses look fantastic. The trackside details are, numerous. It all moves along at a fair old lick. I'm not entirely sure of the frame rate. It's probably not 60 FPS. It's probably around 30 or thereabouts. The vehicles and damage, they're well modelled, and the weather effects, especially the rain, all look superb. Plus, you have multiple camera angles to view the action from, including a bonnet cam, which, for me at least, it makes the game a little easier to control. Other areas, like in the sound, it's not great. The engine noises are a little bit annoying, and there's like a background rock track playing throughout it, and I mean, it can be muted, which is recommended, and you get to listen to the fairly rudimentary but perfectly functional co-driver calling out the pace notes. Hi, Tom here from the future, just inserting myself back into the podcast. It's actually become apparent to me that the game does actually have a licensed soundtrack. There are actually 6 licensed tracks here in WRC for the PSP, and they are Michael by Franz Ferdinand, Take Me Out by Franz Ferdinand, New Centurions by Salaryman, The Rat by The Walkmen, The First Day on a New Planet by Urusei Yatsura, and Save Your City by Radio 4. It was only when I went into the options and had a look at the audio options that I discovered that it does actually have a licensed soundtrack, and it was probably just because the sound of the engines drowned out the background music while I was playing the game that I completely overlooked that. So, yeah, that was wrong, and now, hopefully, I stand corrected.
Easy right, left, into hard right.
As a full package then, WRC for PSP is both a success and something of a disappointment for me. I mean, it looks great, and there are loads of tracks and play modes, and the official license is well used to give the game an overall air of authenticity, like in places such as the menus, the vehicles and the drivers. It's just that the controls are somewhat lacking. And that's not to say you shouldn't give it a go. It's a decent little game, but it could have been so much better if it had been shipped with a better handling model. But that's just my opinion. What did some of the contemporary reviewers think of WRC? Well, through the magic of the internet, I can reveal to you what some of those reviewers said, thought, typed. Alex Navarro at GameSpot rated the game 7.5 out of 10, and he stated that WRC is a thoroughly imperfect racer, but it's a good first effort at bringing the WRC series to the PSP. The flaws in the controls are impossible to ignore, and the overwrought difficulty is going to turn a lot of casual players off, and hardcore players might be irritated at some of the game's arcade in lieu of simulation inspirations. But it is superb in its visual presentation, wealth of courses, and genuinely fun, if flawed, driving. WRC World Rally Championship is a game that rally fans ought to take a look at. So yeah, that's what he thought. Chris Roper of IGN was a little less forgiving, however, awarding WRC on PSP a 6.2 out of 10, saying that WRC has a few nice bits about it, but these are largely outweighed by its negatives. It can be fun to drive, and the game looks nice, but you're also playing catch-up rather than fairly racing against time. It's easy to hit a small piece of land and flip or spin your car, and your navigator is only of modest help. Rally racing fans might find something to like here, but more generalised racing fans should look elsewhere. So, there you go, that's WRC on the PSP. A perfect example of a mixed bag. By all means, give it a try if you still have a PSP knocking about in a drawer. It's pretty cheap as a physical release. You can pick it up for less than £10 on eBay UK at the time of recording. Or if you have a cracked PSP Go like me, just, never mind. Anyway, that's your lot for this episode of Power Drifting. We'll be back in the not too distant future with a longer form episode. We haven't decided which game it will be just yet, but it'll more than likely be either Rallycross, Dirt Rally 2.0, or Sebastian Loeb Rally. But then again, it might be something completely different. Until then, though, thanks for listening. Please do give us a review wherever you get your podcasts from. You can follow us on X, it's Twitter, essentially, at PowerDriftPod. You can also find us on Facebook, which I keep forgetting to update. And our podcasts are on YouTube too. You'll find all the links at powerdriftingpodcast.com. See you next time.